are incredibly pleased tonight to honor our next guest with our Vanguard Award. This award is given to someone who is giving us groundbreaking and innovative work. William H. Macy was nominated for an Academy Award for his role as Jerry Lundgaard in Fargo. Woo, I know. And he has won 2 Emmy Awards and a Screen Actors Guild Award. He was nominated for 9 Emmy Awards and 7 Screen Actor Guild Awards in total. He is also a 3-time Golden Globe Award nominee. Macy is also a teacher and director in theater, film, and television, and has described himself as, quote, a sort of middle American, waspy, Lutheran kind of guy. Everyman. This is the kind of everyman we like having at the festival. I want to thank Alan Ohashi and Ron Bostwick for putting together the tribute piece you're about to see. So please sit back and enjoy this tribute film for William H. Macy.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Ron Bostwick, the special event producer and host for tonight, and it's a thrill for me to be here to introduce our guest. Starting in 1980, only 32 years ago, in the Christopher Reeve, Jane Seymour film, Somewhere in Time, our honoree tonight has appeared in 67 films and 56 television programs. And this does not include countless stage productions. There's a handful of working actors today who can help a film get noticed. From car salesman Jerry Lundgaard, to porn producer Little Bill, to perennial loser Bernie Lutz, to top salesman Bill Porter, William H. Macy has forged a career on screen and in our memory. It was easy for us at the Boulder International Film Festival to know that Bill is the perfect recipient for our Vanguard Award, but it was hard to get him here. We've been trying to make this happen for quite a while, but just like getting a film produced, this year was the year. We're happy, we're thrilled, we're honored, and we're touched that in between shooting Shameless, his current TV show, he's able to come to Boulder to join us. So please help me in welcoming the 2012 Boulder International Film Festival Vanguard Award recipient, William H. Macy.
Couple of words. This is the part I forgot about. I love Colorado. I've always loved Boulder. I'm an adopted son of this state. My wife grew up in Aspen, and I'm pleased to be here, as always. Thank you for this award. It's been a long, strange trip. God willing, it's not over. Watching that film clip, as you can imagine, is quite bizarre. One of the things that actors get, whether they like it or not, is a filmed version of their slow demise. I'd always thought, when I was a younger fellow, I was pretty good looking, but, well, that takes care of that, doesn't it? Perhaps that film clip could be used by dermatologists to show how a person's face can melt off of your skull. There must be something they can do for that. I can't thank you enough. I love what I do for a living. I love telling stories. I love being an actor, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Here, allow me.
That's
we
all
have
right.
some specials tonight. Thank you.
This is water.
What's the matter with us? I came across a quote of hers that I really enjoyed that I want to start with and then skip past quickly. Nobody became an actor because they had a good childhood. I loved that quote.
I wish I'd said it. David Mamet said that, who's the smartest guy I've ever known.
I'll still give it to you.
Okay.
Growing up around the South, moving to Western Maryland as a kid, class president for a couple years in high school, right? College in West Virginia to become a veterinarian, right?
I discovered, though, that to become a doctor of any sort, you have to study. You have to go to college and take classes. So much for that.
And then college in Vermont changed your life because that's where you got into theater.
I was a wretched student, and I discovered this place called Goddard College, where the only requirement that I could discern was tuition. You know, I've made fun of Goddard, and I got a call from a fellow who went to Goddard who asked me to politely shut the fuck up. This is what was great about that school, because there were no requirements per se. Only those who developed some sort of curriculum for themselves and figured out something that they wanted to learn could survive. Those who just wanted to get loaded and laid lasted 6 months, and they went nuts and they had to leave. It was a lesson in where happiness lies in this world.
It was a great 6 months, though.
It was a great 6 months.
Let's not discount that.
No.
And at Goddard, you meet your lifelong pal, David Mamet.
Right.
Also.
Dave had graduated from the school, and he had taken a semester at the neighborhood playhouse with Sandy Meisner. And for those actors out there, he was not invited back. He's done pretty well for himself. And Dave changed my life. He was the first guy who told us in that class that acting was an honorable profession, that it was the actor's job to tell the truth, that the theater was one of the last places in this world where audiences can go to hear the truth. And he made it a calling. And that's when I dedicated myself to it. And I also met a fellow named Stephen Schachter, who has been involved with my life ever since.
Right. So you, Stephen, and David all go to Chicago and start St. Nicholas Theater.
It was a great time in Chicago. There was what they called the off-loop theater movement, and some great actors, many of you, Joe Mantegna, and you'd know a lot of them. And what we brought to the town was sort of a professionalism to running the company. They were producing plays, and many of them were magnificent, but it was sort of, let's get together, my uncle has a barn, sort of an attitude.
Blanket I can use as a curtain type of thing.
We had a subscription. We got serious about it. And Chicago turned out to be a seminal place for me. I had the keys to the joint. I owned a theater. I was teaching. I was doing commercials, making money.
Yeah.
And that was before sex killed you. I had a good time.
So at that time, did you think theater is my life for a long time?
Yes. Sort of horrifyingly so. I was so chauvinistic about Chicago. I did a play, one of Dave's early plays called American Buffalo, which is a magnificent play. And I played the original Bobby, and we got a call to go to New York. And I said, no, I don't want to do a play in New York. I grew older and wiser later.
And that sort of takes me into the beginning of your TV years in the 80s. Another World you were on, Kate and Alley, The Equalizer, my favorite, Spencer for Hire, being a Boston guy. Law and Order. You were probably going to New York to shoot these because they weren't being shot.
No, I had moved to New York when I did most of that work. And those shows, and it's the same today, those shows really sort of subsidized the theater. I love, both in Chicago and in New York, there's a whole world actors who really have made their lives on stage. They've put their kids through school, they bought homes, and they do it on a salary of a stage actor. And it's augmented by the odd commercial or a Spencer for Hire or something like that. But they do play after play after play. They're the most glorious people in the world.
Yeah. And then you start getting into movie work. You know, here we go with things like Radio Days, Benny and June that we saw, a number of David Mamet's films, Mr. Holland's Opus also. Did you start thinking, hey, this could be fun, or was it, no, I'm just doing this, you know, I really wanted to be on the stage, but this is paying the bills? Like, when did you think movies could be a real life for you?
I think that the truth is, everybody who ever did a play, and even in high school or college, in the shower, rehearses their Academy Award acceptance speech.
Honesty.
It's just true. And the movies are big medicine, man. You can't beat it. So I think I always wanted to do films. The thing that put me off at first is that the nature of acting in films had me bollocksed for a while, because if you grew up in the theater, I never knew how those actors came up with those performances in such an abbreviated rehearsal period, if there was any at all. I just didn't know how they could be so spontaneous and dangerous. On stage, I'd gotten it, but it wasn't the first preview. It would be after the play had opened, after I'd run it 2 or 3 weeks. I'd act with anyone in the world. I felt like that was where I belonged. But in film, it took me a long time to what essentially came to throwing out the rules and to stop being so dutiful, as I'd been trained as a stage actor, and to be spontaneous and to be good, and to hell with the rules.
I want to jump back to television, because that's kind of what you were doing at the time, because as you were doing films and starting to get some experience there, you jumped back to television, and you were on the very first episode, as we saw, of ER, and in that very beginning of that show that ended up running for many, many years. Can you sort of take us back to what was going on at the show at the time? Did you guys feel that this was something that was kind of different? Did you think that you might want to be an actor on that show for a long time? If it were to take hold, which it did?
I was working with John Wells doing a pilot, and he said, hey, there's this role in this other thing I'm doing, ER, do you want to come down? We were in Seattle, and you want to come down to LA? I said, sure. And no, I didn't. I always felt like a guest, a well-treated guest, but it wasn't my show. And that cast, those guys, they went to Europe together after their first season. I mean, they really bonded as a cast. And I was a guest star, and a well-treated guest star, but a guest star nonetheless. I did it for about 3 or 4 years. And then when I started making noises about, give me a contract or write me out, they wrote me out.
I hate it when they do that.
I know.
John Wells we'll come back to a little bit later on, because he plays into your career later, and you know he's from Denver.
Yeah.
Also.
Yep.
Also. Good guy. I'm going to jump up to 1996, because Roger Ebert wrote this. He said, films like Fargo are why I love movies. And the reaction of the crowd tonight says that even after 15 years, that movie is still a perennial favorite.
Oh, it rocks. It's a
for
great
people.
film.
You know, Oscar nominations.
But who's counting?
But you lobbied really hard for that role of Jerry, didn't you? You knew that you wanted it.
I had moved to Los Angeles for the same reason as most actors do. Some broad had dumped me, and I thought, I'm leaving then. So I left New York, and I moved to LA, and I had been getting work right along, but I guess it was in the 3rd year I was in LA when that one came along. And I was called in for a smaller part, the detective. And I read this script and flipped out because, one, it was genius, and two, it had my name all over it, even though the character was described as being much older than me and overweight and bald. But it was me. It was just me. I understood it. So I went in and read for the detective. They said, that's working for Joel and Ethan Coen is like working for two hippies that somebody's given a camera and some money to.
They'd fit right in right here.
I know. They're not like filmmakers at all. You'd do a take and they'd come and they'd say, "That's really good. I like the part where you went, This isn't directing. It's cheerleading." So I read for the detective. They said, "That's real good. You want to read Jerry Lundegaard?" I said, "Yeah." So I read and they said, "That's real good. You want to work on it and come back tomorrow?" So I was up all night. Every actor in LA was with me that night. I called in all favors, memorized the whole script, came in, they said, "That's real good." And I left. And then I found out they were auditioning in New York. So I got my Lutheran ass on an airplane and I walked in to the audition. And it's not an apocryphal story. I walked in and I said, "You give this role to someone else, I will shoot your dog." Because I knew Ethan had a dog. And they gave me the role.
You know, their movies are so hard to watch sometimes. You know, as Fargo was in sort of in a quiet way, except for the wood chipper. Anybody who was here last night, spoiler alert. But did that come across on the page? You said you really loved the script when you read it. Could you see just what was on the screen on the page?
Absolutely. I think one of the blessings in my life is I'm pretty good at reading scripts. And for those of you who do it, do this. Skip the stage directions. Read the dialogue. Skip the stupid-ass stage directions. They're boring. They're not shootable. They're just... skip the stage directions. Read it in one take, one sitting. Try to read it in real time. If it's an hour-and-a-half movie, try to read it in an hour and a half. Just read the dialogue, because all the rest is jive anyway. And I've talked to writers about it, saying, I feel so betrayed when I say, "Okay, I'll read your script," and it starts off, "She's a girl." But not just any girl. She's the kind of girl you would have dated in high school if your dad hadn't taken away the keys to the car because you were out too late. And I think, what part of that can you shoot? Can you shoot it? Can you stage direct it? Can you costume it? Then why the fuck did you put it in there? She's a girl. It's hard enough to read a script without giving me all this information I can't use. So anyway, what was the question?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, I'm good at reading scripts.
Okay.
Skip it all. Try to see it in your mind's eye in real time. And then, you sort of saw the movie. And if it's a good movie, do it.
So, which kind of leads me to my next point here. When we were sitting over there during the clip reel, I looked over at you when Air Force One came on, and you had this little smirk on your face. So, since you're so good at reading scripts, how much did you have to overlook all of the special effects in Air Force One, like the fueler plane blowing up? And, did you look at yourself and go, "What the hell am I doing in this movie?"
Dave Mamet's favorite line in American Letters is my line in that. "Let me save him for God's sake. He's the president." He quotes it all the time. When I was very young, I would read scripts and I would think, how does this speak to the human condition? What does this have to do? What does this teach us about what it means to be alive? Is it truthful? Is it soulful? Later, that sort of evolved to, how much do I get paid and do I have to get wet? Air Force One was sort of on the cusp of that. Yeah. No, I love Hollywood, stupid Hollywood movies. I just love them. I make no bones about it. I love to watch them. I adore them. One of the favorite things I've ever done was Jurassic Park 3. It's the same plot as Jurassic Park 1 and 2. The exact same plot. They just got new actors and new dinosaurs. But it was amazing. And people really liked it, and it was the most astounding filmmaking. The best and the brightest in Hollywood doing the best work they'd ever done.
Mm-hmm. I want to transition into writing because, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. I want to transition into writing, and I want to do that by talking about Aaron Sorkin and Sports Night, which is just a great show. You know, and of course, we'll be talking about Aaron tomorrow when Martin Sheen is here too, but with Sports Night, very fast-paced, great writing, great cast, really attractive blonde in that show. I don't know if you've noticed in there also. Just talk to us a little bit about working with a guy like Sorkin on a show like that.
I thought that was the future of television. I thought that was the best TV show I'd ever seen. It was taken off the air by an executive at ABC who replaced it with 5 nights of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. He's no longer in the business. I thought it was the most wonderful writing. They would do this teaser at the beginning that you would think, what could this be about? And then at the end of the half hour, he had spun that around and told the most magnificent story based on a little joke at the beginning. Aaron Sorkin's the real deal. He's one of the finest writers going. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about your writing and works that you've done. An episode of 30-something, which people may not know about. A movie that I loved, and actually 2 of them I want to talk about, we'll get to them later, but Door to Door and The Wool Cap, which are really touching films, which you wrote, and a movie that, let me recommend this because it is friggin' great, The Deal, that I loved.
So you're the guy who saw The Deal. I heard someone saw that movie.
Great editing, great tempo, just moves right along, hilarious,
I liked it
really
too.
Wonderful. So tell us about writing, because you're a writer, what do you get out of writing? What does that bring to the table for you after having acted for so
long? Stephen Schachter, whom I met in college, got a job to direct something once, a movie of the week, and it needed a rewrite. And he invited me to help him rewrite it. And I played a small part, and we did a good job. We found out we were good together. And so we started doing movies of the week, and we did about 15 of them altogether. It was a sort of an avocation for me and a lovely time of it. We only did one feature, The Deal, which didn't succeed, unfortunately. But what do I love about writing? It's, I've always fancied myself a bit of a raconteur. I love telling stories. It was daunting for both Stephen and me to be basically raised by Dave Mamet. The bar was somewhat high, and we had to get his voice out of our heads. There is a mechanical challenge to writing. Once you figure out the story that you want to tell, inevitably, at some point early in the process, you know who it's going to be, and here's the high point, and then this is how it resolves, and then you got to come up with all this filler. And I found it not unlike a mechanical problem. We need a scene that does the following. What could that scene be?
That takes us somewhere.
And I've just loved doing it. Also, I've always written really good roles for myself.
Tell us about Door to Door and how you came to write that, and what was the impetus for it?
Door to Door is about a guy named Bill Porter who was a salesman for the Watkins Company, and he was born with cerebral palsy and deemed unteachable and unemployable, and his mother would have no part of that. And he bullied his way into a job with the Watkins Company, walking, door to door, and became the greatest salesman in the history of the company. And there was a piece on either 60 Minutes or 2020, one of those. He had attained some fame, and that was sent to us. Stephen and myself, and I saw it immediately. I thought it could be a story. There's a good example. Bill Porter was a magnificent fellow, but he had no third act. He was still alive. And killing him seemed extreme just for a movie of the week. So it was my idea to Stephen that we tell parallel stories, that we tell the real story of his life and fictionalize the people that he sold to, and we would tell little stories there, and that the two could relate to each other. And then in meeting Bill, I found out he had fallen in love with the woman who was his assistant, unrequited and denied vociferously, but we saw it, so we put it in and apologized later. And so we had a little, it was a good film. It just, sometimes it all works. Sometimes none of it works, but sometimes. And so we sold it to HBO, who didn't do it. And then it went into turnaround, and TNT did it. Yep. And it won all kinds of awards. And I got involved with United Cerebral Palsy, and been working with them for a while.
9 Emmy nominations, 2 wins. You beat Paul Newman that year.
I did. Beat a lot of people. I've been to a lot of award shows. It's better when you win.
And kind of while we're on the subject, I want to talk about The Wool Cap also, which was also a very touching movie, which I loved. Rewriting of the Jackie Gleason story that he wrote in the early 60s of Guizot. How did that come to be, that you looked and went, hey, I think I'd like to rewrite that and modernize it?
Stephen had remembered it from his youth. And we got it and screened it, and we thought, well, that's not going to work. And it's roughly based on Jackie Gleason's character, but we sort of spun it off. Interesting acting problem. I was a mute, so I didn't speak. And we'd be writing, and we would write down the things that Gigot would say, and Stephen would write out this stuff. He said, well, hold on, wait. I don't know how am I going to do that? He said, you'll figure it out. You're the actor. Let's keep going. I learned how to sign in that a little bit, which I can't remember at all.
And I know that you've got a great Don Rickles story from that film, because Rickles was in it, and I'm just sure.
What a treasure. The funniest guy in the world until the camera rolls. We got it, though. We got it. Stephen earned his stripes that day as a director, because Don hadn't acted for a long time, and we gave him a tough role. I mean, he had a lot of lines. He sort of got him. And I was a mute. How am I going to help him out?
I want to ask you about roles in general, because there's a film that you did called Panic with Donald Sutherland and Neve Campbell, where you play a hitman. But you don't look like a hitman, and you don't walk around like a hitman, and no one would ever know. Oh, and John Ritter is in that also. And no one would ever know that you're a hitman. And you sort of played it like, hey, this guy's a nice guy. You almost want to go out and have a beer with him. Mm-hmm. Had a tough relationship with his dad, but how did you go about making this guy who kills people? How did you put him on the right side of wrong, if I can put it that way?
Well, actually, I think Henry Bromell, who wrote and directed it, is the guy that put him on the right side of wrong. It was in the script. I think an actor's job is to embrace the dilemma that the character you're playing has been put into. One of the guys that worked with Stanislavski wrote this. I read all them Russian guys, and his name was Tostanogov. And one of the things that he said that was sort of outrageous was, as a director, it's your job to bring the maximum amount of an actor's personality to the role. And one would think it's our job to subsume our personalities for the character's personality. And one of the things Dave Mamet taught us was there is no such thing as character. Character is a trick that one plays on the audience with the audience's gleeful
Permission?
yeah, the audience wants to be tricked. So you know, dress you up like a king and sit you on a throne and give you a crown, then you're the king. We have no reason to deny that. So you don't have to prove that you're the king. You are the king. You got that. So it's the actor's job to make it personal, so that if the king murdered your father and stole the throne, you got to figure out what that means to you on a really personal and political level. And that's what the audience will pay a lot of money to see you sort out. But all the other stuff is what the writer takes care of and the director. So how does one make a hit man every man? Well, it's a function of casting. I don't look like a hit man. That was pretty good casting. And it was my job to figure out what that means to me on a personal level to do that job. What would it take to divorce yourself from your job so that it's not a moral question? It's just going to work.
Have you ever had any roles that when you get home at the end of the day, it's a difficult transition for you to sort of wash that character off, whether figuratively or literally, you know, that I got to take a shower because I had a tough day at work, honey, or something like that. You ever had one of those roles, or can you control that?
Yeah, I'm relatively shallow. I think I do know actors who want to get in character and stay in character all day, and it's really annoying. It's such a bore to be around.
There's a lesson for you actors.
Yeah.
Out here.
It doesn't last with me because I don't feel that it's the actor's job to put yourself in some sort of an emotional state necessarily, although sometimes you do have to gear up for something, but it's an actor's job to act. So to me, it's all about what you're doing. What's the objective? So you do that thing, and how that makes you feel is really inevitable, and it's not within your control to a certain extent. And maybe this is the Mamet in me, but I think the less you feel it, perhaps the better. Just do it. Emotions are wonderful to indulge in, but they're boring to watch.
That kind of leads me to a video clip that I want to play for you.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, you're going to like this. I'm going to jump back a little bit. Back in 1978, when you moved to New York City, you were talking about that time. You said, when I lived in New York City, I supported myself by doing commercials. Mostly I auditioned. Once in a blue moon, I would actually book one. Just to give you a little bit of background so you understand the context here.
It's a commercial, isn't it?
If you know, we have Westword here in Denver, free weekly arts paper. And in the city of Boston, they have this newspaper called The Phoenix. And back in 1984, this man right here was making money by doing this.
Howie, please. Howie. Hey, why so glum? His new braces. So? He's picking up Boston Phoenix Radio.
WFNX-FM. All kinds of music, arts and entertainment, news and lifestyle.
It's like having the Boston Phoenix newspaper on the air. Howard, at least people will listen to you now.
WFNX 101.7 FM.
Thank you. Thank you.
See what can happen.
I have no memory of that.
Good.
I did sleep with her.
It was 84.
I don't remember doing that.
I have a good friend of mine who
Did
works...
the radio play when I opened my mouth? Is
Yes.
that the gag?
Yeah, various music from the radio station. I have a good friend of mine who runs a production house in Boston, and when I told him I was going to speak with you, he says, I got something I worked on in 84 that I cut that I got to send to you.
Ooh. Say it again.
Hey, who's running the show?
Yeah.
You know, for people who, you had talked about how you've always, there were times in your life where you had roles that made you feel like Tom Cruise, but you looked like Howdy Doody. I know that when the Mr. Holland's Opus clip came on, there was a nice laugh through the place. But I just, want to remind you that some of the women that you've enjoyed in films, Neve Campbell, Maria Bello, Meg Ryan, you're not doing too bad for yourself here, buddy.
That's showbiz. Those are imaginary circumstances, too.
And I think outside of your wife and your mother, after watching a lot of your films and TV shows, I've seen your butt a lot.
Yeah.
In the past few months here.
I don't know what that's all about. I love this country, so I decided to keep my clothes on from now on.
We're going to chat for just a little bit more, and we want to have questions from you guys. It's one of the beauties of being at this festival, is giving you a chance to speak right to the filmmakers and the guests that we have up here. So in a little bit, we'll have these microphones in the aisles here. We're going to look for you guys to come up and talk to Bill also. Directors that you've worked with, a short list: Woody Allen, Bill Forsyth, Rob Reiner, Joel Schumacher, the Coen brothers, Paul Thomas Anderson, Barry Levinson, Gus Van Sant, Jason Reitman, Emilio Estevez, who we'll talk about tomorrow, David Lynch. You've done a little bit of directing and are about to do a little bit more also. What have you gained from any of these directors that you think could help sort of steer you in whatever direction you're about to go in with your new directing?
The directors that I appreciate the most are good, strong leaders. The notion of being democratic on a set is awful. You'll be there forever, and it has to be a benign dictatorship. You need someone who can listen to other ideas but make a decision and move on. I think the ones I appreciate the most are the ones who have cut the film in their heads so they know exactly what they're looking for. They know what they don't need. My least favorite directors are the ones who just shoot it till the cows come home and will decide later. I'm the kind of guy, I usually suck on the first take, and I kind of get it better on the second take. Third take is usually pretty good. Fourth take is the one. About take 10, I start losing my mind. Take 15, I start saying is a word? Is that a word? Is that the word is? And I did one that he just shot it until you wept, and I lost
and not
my
for a
mind.
good reason.
Oh God, it was awful.
I want to, on behalf of everybody at the Boulder International Film Festival, I want to thank you for allowing us, by being here, to complete what I call the cooler trifecta.
Well,
because 6 years ago, Maria Bello sat on this stage. 2 years ago, Alec Baldwin was here with me, and now you're here. I can die a happy man.
Don't you love Alec Baldwin, the way he's doing his career? I'm just crazy for Alec Baldwin. So good.
There's a nice round of applause when that film came up on the clip reel also.
Yeah.
Your thoughts and memories of making that movie? I loved it. I've probably seen it 6 times, I think.
I had a lot of films where I played the loser, and when this film came along, I said, no more, moratorium, no more losers. And thank God they hounded me. And I said, okay, one more loser. And
just so you know, that's why I put that clip in.
yeah.
Where he's the happy guy and your hair has changed,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
clothes have changed, and all of a sudden you are the king of the world.
I read the script and there were these sex scenes with Maria Bello and I was beside myself with fear. And my lovely, lovely wife said, listen, you're preparing to fail. I can hear it in your voice. Said, you should either get these scenes cut or drop the film or start thinking about how you're going to make them great. And boy, I was embarrassed and I took it to heart. And so I analyzed all of those scenes as I would any other scene because there were about 6 of them. And when I analyzed them, I couldn't solve 2 of them. And to the director's credit, he said, you're right. And he cut them. And the ones that were left, even though there was little dialogue, I thought, just within a scene, how are we different at the end of this scene? What transpired and where does it happen? And I really thought of them that way. And then I insisted we do, you'll pardon the expression, a dry run. And so with the DP and the director and Maria, we, a day or two before, we mapped out the whole thing. And I knew exactly where the camera would be, so there were no surprises. And that helped enormously. And I was really proud of a lot of those scenes because they're awkward and they seem spontaneous and they're really sexy, I think, because they're not so glossy and studied. And I remember the first morning we were in a hotel. They were going to tear down this hotel in Reno. That's where we shot the whole thing. So for 6 weeks, I never saw the light of day. I slept on the 14th floor. We shot in the casino. Production offices were on the 2nd floor. I never went outside. It was perfect for a film like that. But in the dressing room, we were getting ready for that first scene, and I hear, no, it wasn't good. That's what I heard. I know a wine cork when I hear one, and it was 7:30 in the morning, and I go, well, and there's Maria with a bottle of Jack Daniels, and she said, this is my acting teacher. You want him to give you a So we lubricated ourselves quite liberally, and I ended up loving those scenes, all of them. I was disappointed when they were over. Later in the film, we were saying, what if we did it naked? Maybe that would be good. But I adore that woman. She's so cool.
Yeah. Beyond the obvious reasons, I think you married the right woman, by the way.
Yeah.
You know.
We were talking about Transamerica. Did you folks see Transamerica?
Executive producer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got my
You
name
helped.
on the film. Yeah.
You helped. So,
Felicity's about to finish Housewives and back to the civilian life, and I can't wait for her to make another film. The year she did Transamerica was the first year of Housewives, so we were, what a year that was. She had an Oscar nomination, an Emmy she had every nomination, everything but a Tony. She didn't do a play that year. That's the only thing. What a year that was.
almost hitting for the cycle.
Yeah.
Almost. One thing that people may not know about you, you're a pretty good woodworker. Hold on. One thing you may not know about yourself.
I finally just fessed up. I'm the worst carpenter I've ever met. I'm just terrible.
They put you on the cover of Fine Woodworking magazine.
I know.
Maybe because you were a
That's
star.
because the bandsaw dropped out at the last second. So they had to put me there. I'm a terrible carpenter. We built this cute little casita, and I thought, I need to hire somebody who's better than me. And so I hired this guy. He fired me. He let me go. He let me go the second week.
Then let me jump back to the movies. Saving myself up here. When the clip from Mystery Men came up on the screen, there was also a nice round of laughter. And I was watching that movie, and I was surprised at how here's these great comedians surrounding you, and Bill Macy. You know, here's Ben Stiller, here's Hank Azaria, here's Paul Rubens, you know, Pee-wee, among other people. And I'm just wondering, when you heard that you were going to be in that crew, you know, did you look around and go, what the hell? You know, why didn't you get, you know, somebody, I mean, what were your thoughts as that movie was being filmed? Because Janine Garofalo, I can only imagine what was happening when the camera weren't rolling.
I don't know. I'd like to do more comedies because I think I'm pretty funny. No matter what I don't think I fall into the second category. I'm nervous about this. Television almost got ruined for a while because somebody had the bright idea, let's go into the comedy clubs and hire all them to do the TV shows. And for a while, it was unwatchable. It was just all these people hurling insults at each other on television. That's what every sitcom was about. Yeah. Dave Mamet is famous for saying, God save us from funny actors. It's not the actor's job to be funny. It's the writer's job to be funny. But having said that, I've written some really funny stuff, and I've had actors try to act it, and it just nothing. You think, this is a joke. But I mean, if someone's not funny, you can't help them.
I've got another question I want to ask you, but while I do that, let's bring the house lights up just a little bit, and we want to come out to the audience and start hearing your questions. So if you have some, please feel free to come to the microphones that are in the aisles, and when I'm done with this question, we'll come right out to the audience, let you talk to Bill Macy over here. And, you know, when we met, you said, no, Bill, you know, it's not William. And William H. Macy, because you didn't want to be confused with the guy that played Maude's husband, for those of us of a certain age, Bill Macy. There's got to be a great Bill Macy story of people who thought they were getting him and they got you. They were looking for people.
No, they wouldn't cop to it, but I got called to do a reading in New York, and when I showed up, they went, oh.
Wait a minute.
They wouldn't admit it, but I know that's what happened. But I finally met him. We were booked one time to do something, a TV show, and he couldn't do, I couldn't do it at the last minute, a scheduling conflict. But I finally met him just about a year ago. Good guy, good actor. The Late Show with Lily Tomlin, he's in that.
Yep.
Wonderful actor.
Yep. Okay, perfect. So let's start over here on this side. Bring the lights up just a little bit, if you would, Steve, so we can see who's asking. Go ahead. Question for Bill.
Hi, I'm Alexia Anastasia. My film's actually playing next in this theater. And my question is, you've worked on so many things and done them amazingly. What is missing from your career that you really, really want to do?
What a good question.
What's missing?
What is missing from my career? I really want to direct. It's a joke, isn't it? But I really do. I directed something a long time ago for HBO, but I was so young. Not only did I not know the answers, I didn't understand the questions they were asking me. I was just holding on by my fingernails. I really want to direct something. I've gone to the 11th hour with scripts about 10 times, but independent films, as you all know, is on life support because the paradigm of making independent films has changed. But I think I'll get my chance soon. Do you have any money?
We'll hope.
Sure. I think I can help you find some people to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question on this side, please.
Yeah. I'm an admirer of yours, of course, but also David Mamet and Oleana and House of Games. I know you weren't in that. But Homicide, which I'm sorry didn't get a little play tonight. I just want to ask you if you would just speculate on Mamet as a director. He wrote a book called On Directing. You've been directed by him. You have all this kind of stylized dialogue. He's a very unique and unusual writer, and I'm wondering your thoughts on playing David Mamet roles and being directed by him.
He really gave me my career. He definitely gave me my aesthetic. So I worship the guy. He's a rootin' tootin' genius, first of all. I don't know many of them, but I mean, he is card carrying. I've seen him do this. He can sit down and write Rudyard Kipling. He can just write it out. And then Emily Dickinson, and then Shakespeare, and then Tennessee Ernie Ford. He can imitate anyone. He's that facile. I once said, how do you write this stuff? And he's got a queer look on his face, and he said, I hear voices and I write it down. Yeah. He is touched by genius. He's always been ahead of me. He says the books that you refer to, they outrage people. For those of you in the business, he writes these books that are just scandalous. And 3 years later, everyone realizes, well, you're sort of right. He's a great theoretician. He knows more about acting and what the actor's job is. He holds it so dearly. He's recently become a Republican, which I don't understand. He may be trying to annoy us. Or an aneurysm, perhaps.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Question over here, please.
Hi there, Bill. My name is Michael. How are you doing tonight? I just wanted to ask you what your favorite film was and why.
Airplane.
I was wondering whether you were going to use your films or just all films.
Airplane. If I had to be on a desert island with one film, it's just genius.
Is that the Zuckers do Mamet?
I guess so. I mean, you know, if we brought in some beer, we'd all be doing lines from it, but you know. Something terrible's happened. He's in the hospital. What's that? It's a big building with beds, but we don't have time for that. We just got this message. What can you make from it? Well, I can make a hat, or I can make a...
Or a brooch. JCPenney's is having a sale, you know. We could spend an hour and a half just on Airplane.
Genius.
I recently watched Bart Got a Room, and I'm just wondering if you're planning on doing some of these very low indie movies in the near future.
Not if I can avoid them. Nah. Isn't that a sweet film? It's called Bart Got a Room. We made it down in Florida. Good hair, eh? I just did a little indie that was at Sundance. It's called The Surrogate. It's lovely. It's made for $700,000. So, yeah, I'm sure I'll do them till the day I die and beyond.
Back over here.
Well, I'm learning more on directing. I'm trying to learn to become a director. So I was wondering what exactly is helpful or not so helpful? What do you do with directors to develop your character, and what would you choose to do?
It's a good question. The question is actually a bit academic, because the reality is, when, except for the gigantor features, it's a race to get the film in the can. So if you have to talk too much about the character to the actors, you screwed up the casting. You got to hire people who will show up ready to rock and roll, because every bit of energy you've got will be getting the film in the can and putting out fires. So what I think the director needs to know is what the story is, how does this scene fit into the story, within this scene, what's the moment, what's the thing I gotta get. The director has to know how this scene is gonna be cut into the film so that when your 5 shots can only be 2, because it just started snowing, what are those 2 shots? Directing the actors is a very, I think you will find, a minor part of it. You need to cast actors who understand it and who are going to bring it. The other thing that as a director you should do is you should know that poop flows downhill. So if the producer and the director are gentlemen and gentlewomen and treat people with respect, everybody will. And the opposite is true too.
Go ahead.
Hey man, love your work. I was just wondering what working with Paul Thomas Anderson was like, because he seems like a really peculiar guy, especially in interviews. So, just wondering.
He's just this shy of insane. He's seen every movie ever made. With glee, he says he's never had an original thought. It's just retreads of everything he's seen. He loves making films. He's got boundless energy. Poor taste in women. No, he's really well married right now.
As long as you ask, let me check. Did he write Magnolia in your cabin up in Vermont?
He did indeed. He went up there and did the final draft. I've got a little place in Vermont. And he hammered out the last draft. I'm thinking about, oh, what the hell? It's Boulder. I called him up.
It's just you and me.
I called him up. He'd been up there for about 3 days, and I said, how's it going? And he said, good. And I said, Paul, I don't know if this would help, but in the kitchen and a little dish, he said, I found it.
Next question.
Hi. First of all, it's really a treat that you're here, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
The question I have is whether or not there was a director who gave you sort of a golden nugget that you've been able to take from production to production that was a salient bit of direction that really helped you throughout your career?
What a great question. I heard a great one. I was in the film, but it wasn't said to me. But this director said to the actor, he came up to him, he said, listen, you're losing. Every scene you're in, you're losing. And the actor said, yeah. And he said, don't lose. Stop losing. Thought it was a genius, succinct. I mean, that's something you can take to the bank. Next scene you do, that's something you can really act on. Don't lose.
Thank you.
It's the old KISS acronym. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
And he kept it simple. Back over here, please.
Hi, Bill. My name's Tom. I also like to thank you for coming tonight.
Nothing to it.
My question was, I noticed you cringed a lot when you saw that commercial. It was pretty surprising to you. I guess my question is, were there any other jobs you did before starting your acting career that sticks out in your mind besides acting that you had to take, whether it was working in restaurants? And I'll share with you mine was having to dress up in a gorilla costume and serve tacos and burritos on platters and run around restaurants. And I was wondering if you ever get yourself into...
That can't be sanitary.
Yeah, and I was wondering if you had any job that sticks out in your head before starting your amazing acting career that...
That sucked.
Yeah.
All of them. I was a good humor man for about 9 hours. They made you...
But you didn't look good in white?
Oy. They made you get the truck before the sun came up. And you couldn't bring the truck back until the sun went down. And by 9:30 in the morning, I realized I was not going to make any money. They'd given me this neighborhood. These little kids would come out and wave down the truck, and it was a process, you know, to turn off the thing and get out. And then I'd find out, you're 2 years old. You don't have any money. Why did you flag me down? So I'd get back in the truck. So I gave it until about noon, and then drove it to a bar and drank until dark.
Done. Back over here, please.
You've done so many different roles throughout your span of an actor, and I was wondering, what role have you most connected to and why?
It's a little like, which of your kids do you like best, actually. Also, I'd like to work with more of these directors again, so. I gotta say, I'm loving Shameless because I got the best job in Hollywood. I've talked to a lot of my friends. I said, would you do television? They said, yeah, if I had your role. I love the outrageousness of it. I love what I get to do. It's not a cakewalk either. I mean, there's a lot of lines, and especially my character just holds forth sometimes. That you saw a bit from State and Maine. I love that character. Happy Texas. I love Chappie Dent. Door to Door was really hard because of all that makeup, but boy, it flew. I could feel it. Sometimes, it's interestingly, my experience is that sometimes when it's right, when it's really right, and when you're doing a good job, it feels suspiciously easy. And it's a pitfall for an actor to screw it up because it just seems to be coming too easily. But I think when you're really firing on all cylinders, it should be easy. And conversely, I think it's not any better because you bring a lot of angst and make yourself miserable. It doesn't help, in my experience. I don't know, those roles. Sports night. I love doing sports night. Of course, my wife was on the show. We got a baby out of that show.
I didn't see that episode.
Yeah.
Let's come back over here.
Hi, William. My name is Natalie, and I'm truly honored to be standing in front of you to meet you.
Thank you.
I am in awe of your character of Shameless. Honest to God, I've written 2 plays in college, and I never dreamed of a character like yours in Shameless. Honestly, I'm smitten, I'm shocked, I'm in love, but I hate you. And I want to step on you, but I want to hug you,
Yeah.
and I want to know what you do with your craft and your preparation to be who you are as that character. And I don't want to give anything away. I have a dear friend tonight, and I'm with my husband as well. We're up in the mezzanine. But my friend has not seen Shameless yet, and I told her she's got to watch it. and I don't want to give anything away.
Okay.
But there
It's on
is a
video.
recent scene. I was
Butterface?
never as shocked, William, ever in the history of being entertained.
You're right. It's shameless, isn't
It's
it?
shameless.
I do
How
a pretty.
do you do it?
I do a pretty good drunk, which is that ain't acting. It's more like a party trick. But I'm just pretty good at being loaded.
But I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, William, that you are cold sober? Or
Right
do you-
now?
But in that role, are you partially intoxicated? Or are you completely?
No.
I didn't. Yeah.
I got-
Because you're that talented, you don't have to.
I got
be,
loaded one
assume.
time in a play, and Josh Logan came to the great Josh Logan from the Group Theater came to our theater in Chicago, the St. Nicholas Theater, and he took us out to dinner. And oh boy, could he drink! And I ended up drinking 2 tumblers of scotch. And now let's go see Bill act. And I had the lead in the play. Oh my God, it was the longest night of my life. I got out there before I spoke. I thought, let me just buy all the tickets back.
Yeah.
From you. You don't want to see me. I don't want to do it. It was a nightmare. So I've never done that
It'd be
since.
a lot easier. That way.
It's you know, you root for your character. That's what it is. I don't know. I'm pretty good at taking despicable people and making them palatable.
But those, just if I could just
Let's,
add one more part, those
make
scenes.
it quick, please, because we got some other people.
Okay,
Hurry up.
thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
Let's come over to this guy.
I actually have a similar question. Shameless is obviously based on a British show.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to know how much you looked towards the original Frank Gallagher in developing your character, or did you at all?
I did. I got the script first that John Wells wrote, and then I saw the British pilot, and then we shot our pilot. And then when they picked it up for the first season, I watched the whole first British season, which was only 7. They do things differently over there. They're idiots. They don't sign their actors to contracts. So their 2 leads got married and ran away. So the second season, we were off the reservation altogether because we kept our Fiona and Steve. I watched it as much as I dared, but it was so good, at a certain point I thought, I don't want to watch this anymore. I'm going to start imitating them and speaking in a funny accent. I started watching the 3rd episode, but truthfully, I can't understand a bleeding word they say. But I had a lovely moment. David Threlfeld, who plays Frank in the British series, I was in London, and I had his email, and I emailed him, and we couldn't get together because they shoot up north of London. But he came to LA, and I invited him to the set. And we set the day, and then he texted me. He was on the lot, and we sent someone for him, but he decided to walk. Anyway, he sort of got lost at Warner Brothers, and I was in my trailer, kept looking out, and then I saw him across the lot. It makes me emotional to remember it, but I walked out of my trailer to this guy, never met him before in my life. We sort of ran the last 10 paces and embraced each other like a long-lost brother. It was such a, I so felt the confraternity of actors, and he hung around all day, and it was a red letter day to meet that guy.
Nice. Back over here, please.
Hi there. Thank you for being here tonight. It's been a wonderful evening. I'm curious, you've done a lot of roles with difficult dialogue. How do you memorize? Is it natural for you, or do you work really hard at it?
I'm not bad at it, but I work really hard at it. My wife taught me, oh boy, this is boring. Okay, the rest of you go out for coffee. This is what I do. She taught me a new way to memorize lines. What I would do is I would look at the thing, look up, and try to say it. And inevitably, you're an actor. Inevitably, am I right? You look at it, you look up, and you say it 4 times, you look down, and then you find out you just paraphrased it. It's not that. Felicity told me you look at each word and say the thing out loud. Never learn lines when you can't say them in a full voice. And you look, you make your eyes follow every single word, say the sentence 10 times, reading every word. do that until you get the whole speech, then say the speech, and only work 20 minutes at a time. If you've got a bunch of pages to learn, give yourself 3 days. The second day you go back to it, you will have forgotten half, and learn it all again. Same thing, 10 times, and make your eyes follow the words. It's transformed my acting. The other thing that's transformed my acting is learning the freaking things in the first place. I realized I would go to set vaguely off book, and it was a long, awful day. The second we started Shameless, John Wells, who is a great leader, said, we're not going to have sides on the set. I think it's better, don't you? And when John speaks, you do it. Sides are they take the script and they shrink it to a little thing about yay big. And the actors carry that day's work in their back pocket. And then they refer to it. And so on a TV show or on a movie, you'll see everybody, they're checking their sides before the scene. John said, no sides. If you don't know your lines, carry the script. So you got to carry this big freaking script around. And he said, but the point is, learn your lines. I think it's better. Listen. And everyone took it to heart. And I took it the most to heart. And I'm the old guy on the set, so I have a very young cast. To make a long story short, we learn the lines. We know them dead on. And it's transformed acting to me. I would act all the live long day. When you know the lines, it's a lovely day. When you don't, you can't wait to get home.
Thank you. I'm going to take one last question over here, please.
Is there anyone that you haven't gotten to work with yet that you would really like to?
Yeah. You. Gene Hackman. I just adore Gene Hackman. Lisa Kudrow, I think she's the funniest woman that ever walked. Meryl Streep, there's some great. I got to do a film with George Clooney. Well, we did ER together. We had some scenes together. But he sort of blossomed after ER.
You may have heard of him.
Brad Pitt, I think he's the bee's knees. I've run into him a couple of times. He's that good looking. It's just crazy.